Hi, this is Cassandra with Auth0, and today we're going to talk a little bit about how easy it is to integrate SAML logins with Auth0. So let's start with an hypothetical. You're building a SaaS product, and some of your enterprise customers want their employees to be able to access your product through single sign-on, and they happen to use SAML. SAML is a complex standard, and so implementing it yourself, while there are libraries out there that make this easier, can be quite a nightmare and require lots of code, maintenance, etc. Luckily, Auth0 supports SAML logins, and you can even use lock, and it only takes a few lines of code and some configuration. So what we're going to go over today is how to get that started and how easy it is to switch over to SAML from, say, a social provider like Google. So what we have here is an express implementation of Auth0. All I needed to do was include passport strategy for Auth0 and then basically check that the user is logged in and redirect once lock calls back to our server. And when I want to log out, lock will call back to my server and I will tell that request to then log out. So on the client side, what I've got is lock.show, which will show our login window, has a callback URL which calls back to that Express app that I just showed you. And I've told it to forget the last time I logged in. And what I've got is logout, lock.logout, and return to user/logout, another route I showed you in the Express app. So let's take a look at enabling Google and seeing how this works. So I've logged into the Auth0 dashboard, and what I'm going to do is turn on a Google connection. So I'm going to flip the switch here, and then make sure that my application is turned on, and I'm going to hit continue. We're going to leave these keys blank to use Auth0 dev keys, and then we're going to save. Now that this is saved, we're going to try it out in our app. Click Login. And as you can see, the Google icon is there, so we're going to click it. And this logs me into my already logged in Google account. As you can see, it says hello and my username. I can also click Log Out to log back out. Now let's take a look at how, without changing any of this code, we can integrate SAML logins. So to get started implementing SAML, first I'm going to turn off my Google connection. Then I'm going to click Enterprise under Connections and go to SAML-P Identity Provider. I'm going to create a new connection. I'm going to name it. I'm using SSO Circle, so I'm going to use that. As for the email domains, my username is under cassandraperch.com, so I'm going to leave that as my email domain. That is what Lock will use to know when to use the SAML connection. As for the sign-in URL, I'm going to put the sign-in URL for SSO Circle. And for the sign-out URL, same thing. Sign-out URL I've obtained from SSO Circle. As for the certificate, I've already downloaded it, so I'm going to upload it. And that's it. That's all I needed to do. So I'm going to hit save. Next, I'm going to hit continue. So you will want to hand the information on this screen to your identity provider. In this case, I will be handing this information to SSO Circle. Next, let's try it out and see if our connection works. So to make sure we're ready to test this in our application, what I'm going to do is go back to the management screen for SAML Identity Provider Connections. And I'm going to click the gears around SSO Circle, the settings menu. And then I'm going to go to apps and make absolutely sure that my application is turned on. And then I'm going to hit save. Now we can try this in our application. So in our application, we're going to click login just like we did before. And I'm going to type my email address into the field. As you can see, the password field has disabled and you can see single sign-on enabled. That means it recognizes that this is our SAML connection. So I'm going to click login. It then sends me to the SSO Circle login page where I will put my username and password in place and click login. It will then redirect me back to my application and show that I am logged in. Note, I changed zero code on my application. All I did was configure my SAML connection and turn it on. So now that I've shown you how easy SAML is to integrate, I'd like to note that any IDP is just as easy as SAML. You don't need to change your front end or even server-side code every time you add a new provider. All you need to do is configure the provider on the Auth0 dashboard, turn it on for your application, and it'll start showing up in Lock. We have over 30 social IDPs, including Facebook, Twitter, Yahoo. You can also add any Auth0 IDP. All you have to do is configure it and throw the switch, just like we did with Google. We also support all the popular enterprise SSO choices, including LDAP, SAML, Active Directory, and ADFS, Google Apps, OpenID Connect, you name it, we probably support it. You can even support legacy databases that don't have federation. There's just a little wrapper code involved there. You can check out more about that in our docs. We even offer passwordless authentication and multi-factor authentication. Again, all you have to do is configure it through the dashboard and off you go. Auth0 has a free tier that you can try today. Feel free to take a look. You'll see that a lot of authentication things that you thought would be tricky to implement, like SAML Federation, are handled with no problem by Auth0. I'm Cassandra with Auth0, and thanks for listening.